All right, so we are about to start procedure number 7 for Solidworks. For my remote learners, remember you have to log in through ClassLink and the remote app server, enable Google Drive file stream, and then you can open Solidworks. We're operating locally in-house here, so we have a native copy of Solidworks installed on this machine. I'm just going to browse out to Google Drive file stream and the Rocket Car folder where we've been saving all of our procedures. So we're going to open procedure number 6. And this procedure is going to cover a couple of different things. Nothing like incredibly difficult, just a couple final details that I want you guys to verify are correct. And showing, it'll be things that I'm going to be looking for in order to approve your car to move forward. So first thing is only 6 sketches. So sketch number 1 being the block itself, sketch number 2 over here being the chamber, number 3 being the axles, number 4 being the side profile, number 5 being the back, and number 6 being the sketch on the bottom. All right, so now that we have all those, there's a couple little things that I want to show you here. First of all, run thickness analysis on 0.375 and 0.14 to make sure we have no issues. So I'm going to do 0.375 first. And there's a lot of color on here, but let me explain all of this. None of it's bad. So let's start from the back moving forward. All this color on the side and on the top of the chamber, and this car's symmetrical, so it's the same on the other side too. That doesn't matter because the numbers that pertain to this area are 0.14. We're testing for 0.375, so it doesn't matter. This right here, SolidWorks has this happen occasionally, and it'll happen on usually one side. Notice it happens here on this side, and it happens, over here on this side. And I can't really tell you why. It's just like a little archive that appears sometimes, and you just, once you get really good at SolidWorks, you kind of know to ignore those sort of things. This right here is actually the thickness in front of the chamber. So actually, if you look at it from the bottom, the chamber kind of pushes up into here, and that area right there doesn't necessarily need to be greater than 0.374. I usually keep that greater than 0.1 in that area. This is the area over top of the axle. No worries there. And coming to a point here, you're always going to have a little bit of color there too. So even though this has a lot of color on it, none of it's bad. Where it becomes bad is if I'm looking in front of the chamber. Our rule is that it's got to be greater than 0.375 inches in front of the chamber, and we don't have it. Notice there's no color through here, which means the thickness between here and here, between here and here is okay. If that was too thin, you'd see color up in here. Notice we also have no color all throughout here. If you saw color there, that would mean your thickness from your bottom sketch is too thin between here and here. All right, so again, as much color as we see on this sketch, none of it is anything that is going to be catastrophic to our car. So we're just going to go ahead and click that green check. We'll run back to thickness analysis again. We'll do 0.14, and we'll see where we're at. Yeah, we're good. So there's no color on here whatsoever. A little bit here on the front, but again, that comes to a point, not a big deal. Ignore the color that you might see on the bottom. But for thickness analysis, this car is basically perfect. It's exactly where we want it to be. All right, now let me show you something else that is pretty awesome. If you go to features, nope. Yep, features, sorry. Filleting is something I've shown some classes and I haven't shown some others. Fillets take sharp edges like this and curve them it radiuses the edges. So if I go to fillet, the reason I haven't shown a lot of people fillet is because fillet's something you should do at it's like the last step. It's kind of, you know, the icing on the cake, so to speak. So if you're going to do fillet, you want to make this a full preview. This is the size of the radius down here. So we'll just start with 0.1. And if I click in this area right here, you'll see that wherever I click, I can add a radius to that. So when I go ahead and click this edge, this gets curvy, and that helps with aerodynamics. It's actually kind of cool. It also helps when you're sanding your car down the road too. And honestly, it does take a little bit of weight off as well. So the problem is you can't fillet everything. If you start to fillet too much, you could run into some issues. So if you're going to fillet anything, this area across the top is usually okay. This area through here is usually okay. Let me show you where you can't fillet. This front edge, because in order to fillet that, the bit would have to come down and round around the front of it, and we know that our bit can only travel up and down. You could potentially also fillet this area. Come on, computer. This area right here. You could potentially get into filleting that too. There we go. You just can't fillet around the bottom here. You can't fillet around the chamber there as well. All right. So go easy on the fillets. The fillets don't count towards your sketches. If you filleted something and you're like, I don't like it, you can right click and go to delete. So I like to see a fillet on your car. As I said, just don't get too crazy with it as well. And you can also play around with the diameter of that fillet as well. So I'm sorry, the radius of the fillet. So you can play around with this. The bigger the number, the more curvy it gets, the more material it takes off as well too. If you are going to fillet, you then have to go back into evaluate and thickness analysis, and you have to make sure that you run thickness analysis on it again and check all of those individual pieces to make sure that you don't have any thickness issues anywhere. All right. So let's let this do its thing. We would do it for 0.4. We would do it for 0.375 as well too. I'm not going to do that in this video just to kind of keep the time down. All right. Remember, fillet is the last thing that we're going to do. And if you have to go back and make any changes, I would delete the fillets and come back and add them again because they are very quick to add. Fillets take a lot of math to calculate, and if you like end up with a weight issue and you got to go back and you've got to fix your car, what inevitably ends up happening is you're going to have a problem with a fillet. So I usually just recommend everybody to delete the fillets if you have to go change and then just add it in again. The final thing that we want to do is mass properties. You'll see that my mass is at 34 grams. In the past, my minimum has always been 35, and my maximum, I really didn't want them any higher than 40 grams. So whenever we get out of COVID, that's what we will go back to. For my groups right now, I'm not too worried about weight. We'll just kind of let it be what it is. But for those of you that are watching this, hopefully in the future and not in 2020, we want to keep that range in mass when all is said and done to be between 35 and 40 grams. All right. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do when all that stuff checks out, you're also sure that you have no pockets anywhere. I'm going to ask you guys to go to File, go to Save As. I'm going to have you save it as first name, last name, procedure 7, and you are going to submit it to Google Classroom. I hope you have a great day.